he hit me after 2 minutes. And I literally flew. I was sitting next to some old lady in row Z. Do you know what I mean? It was like, you just been on the pitch. He went, calm down. It's not football. It's a full-scale war. Keep it going.
Yeah, I know. Just digging you up right now.
Should we just close it there?
That's a wrap.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Sohail Var here, footballer, content creator with Ben and Josh, founders of Activity. And today we got a special guest on So Close, So Var. We got Dale Gordon. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much.
Quick recap before we get into the details of it. So, career began at the age of 8. That's when you joined Norwich City Hall of Famer, who at the age of 17 made your debut and then finished 5th and 4th in the top division, which is massive. Won 2 league titles and 2 Scottish Cups for Rangers, following your 1.25 million transfer from Norwich.
Keep it going.
Yeah, I know. Just digging you up right now.
Should we just close it there?
That's a wrap.
No, we all obviously did a bit of research yesterday.
Yeah.
I know Dale Gordon, Dubai. I did. Honestly, when I started doing a bit more research behind you, I was taken aback behind how impressive your playing career was. I've heard bits and pieces and stuff, but I haven't looked at like your league debut at 17 against Liverpool 3-3. I was like, even looking in depth. I think Kenny Dalglish was in that game.
Kenny Dalglish did play that game. Scored an absolute worldie as well. A typical Dalglish goal as well. The edge of the box, just outside of his right foot, and curled it top bins against Chris Woods, who at that time was the understudy to Peter Shilton as goalkeeper, as England goalkeeper. Yeah. So an incredible debut, but also as well a build up to the game as well. I remember because I was like you mentioned, like as an 8-year-old. If we rewind that again, the local rivals of Ipswich and Norwich, and as a kid, I was always playing with teams that were maybe 2 or 3 years above me on age. But Dad was a professional cyclist as well, back in South America, and so he's had that sort of like foresight profession. And I was a little bit different to the boy next door, every day on the local park, every day in the back garden, smashing my mum's windows and everything like that. It was terrible, new panes of glass, everything. But moving on from there, so then joined Norwich as a schoolboy, and then went through that whole transition from schoolboy to they call it differently now, not scholars, but it's like an apprentice. In them days you had to go to the ground, the main ground after a match day, and go and sweep the stands and clean the showers and do this and do that.
Do you miss that? Do you think those values should be instilled in kids now?
Yeah, to a point, because I think that the money is so vast in the game at the moment, and I think that they're so protected, and I think you only have to look and you hear through social media and different platforms that even children as young as sort of like 7 or 8 are getting signed, and money's been thrown around. It's incredible. There was still that sort of side of it when I was playing, like the money in the brown paper bag under the table, that sort of stuff. And it happened with me as well. I remember when, as I signed schoolboy forms for Norwich, it was touch and go. Funny enough, this particular club is in the news at the moment, and the manager before Ken Brown took over was a guy called John Bond, and John Bond and John Sainty as well, and a guy called John Benson, who was the youth team scout for Norwich City. They all left from Norwich and then went to Manchester City. Man City previously had signed a guy called Kevin Reeves for $1 million. And Man City wanted my signature as well as a 14-year-old, as well as Ipswich. So did Arsenal, West Ham. There was a number of clubs, but because obviously it wasn't just about Dale Gordon. I've got an older brother and 2 sisters as well, and obviously the family, tight-knit family. We didn't really want to move from East Anglia as well. It's sort of sleepy East Anglia.
Just on that, sorry to interrupt you, but for that Man City offer again, having done a bit of digging,
yeah,
Man City offers your family, but for Dale Gordon, £35,000 and a house to relocate to Manchester.
That's correct, yes.
And again, because your dad had his setup and his job in where you were, you didn't make that move across. But I was kind of opening it up to everyone, because you hear of these crazy stories that, kids are getting signed up from the age of 6 and 8. And parents are offered like, we'll refurbish your kitchen and everything. What would be the craziest add-on, or what would be that thing that you'd want included? As a parent, for example, for a younger Remy, your son, if you offered £35,000 plus something, what would be that thing that puts it over the edge for you?
Oh, wow.
And again, for you guys as well, what is it like?
It needs to be something, you need to have that security as well. It needs to be worthwhile. I don't know if it's a job for yourself or something like that, because a house is all well and good and the money's great, but at the end of the day, that's going to run out, and you have a roof over your head, but you need to be, I think you need to have a job somehow. I
think it was, remember the story with Gaza as well. I think that when the whole thing with Gaza with Manchester United and Spurs, and then speaking to Alex Ferguson, Terry Venables, and I think there was a time when they were talking about a house and a car, and my dad wants a car, and my mum wants a house, his sister wanted a sunbed. Do you know what I mean? So it's crazy, yeah, I know. But listen, I think it's just security, isn't it? I think if anything was an add-on, it's just security for your family, because like I said, it's not just about that individual, it's about your brothers and sisters, and also as well moving away from an environment. We're talking so many years ago, and whereas Norfolk has always been a difficult place to get to anyway, transport wise, and I think that it was it wasn't really a difficult decision, because then when that happened, Norwich then sort of returned with a counter offer. So, but they've done it down a legal way, so they've done illegally given a brown paper bag. So, and set up an endowment policy for me from I was 14 through to I was 24, which was nice, So, unfortunately, I didn't see the full 10 years, because obviously I moved from Norwich, but I actually forgot about the money in the account, actually. So I need to go back and get that.
Well, before we continue, obviously, with your more first-team career, I'm interested to know, obviously, how it was growing up. And I've got some crazy things. Obviously, you mentioned about the rivalry between Norwich and Ipswich. You grew up as a staunch Ipswich town fan.
Yeah.
And is it true that as part of your trial at Norwich City, you arrived wearing the Ipswich Town kit?
Yeah, I remember it was the 78 team. The 78 team at Ipswich was phenomenal. They were, as a group, managed under Bobby Robson, the great Bobby Robson, and I mean, obviously the other TalkSport radio station in the UK with Alan Brazil, who runs the breakfast show, he was there. Paul Mariner, Eric Gates, Mickey Mills. They had Tyson and Arnold Muren, and it was just Paul Cooper in goal. Just an incredible team.
How did Norwich take that when they see a little Dale Gordon?
Well, it was the 78 Cup final when they beat Arsenal 1-0. Osborne. It was like, I always remember it. It was like, get us down the right side. He knocked it in. Willie Young stuck our left foot out. Osborne 1-0. It's famous, and. We played in a school cup final. We won 5-0. I scored a hat trick. Scored straight from the corner, and then it was like. And then Ken Brown, who was the assistant manager at the time, obviously before he then took the role on as manager when John Bond left, we was invited in as the whole team. The whole school team went, and I turned up in the famous blue and white outside a training ground called Trouse Training Ground, just on a little wooden bench in my Ipswich Town kit. And then John Bond came up with a big cigar, and he got out of the car and went, hang on a minute, mate, you should be in the wrong training ground, you know what I mean? And I just hit it off straight away, and I didn't wear that kit ever again, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
So, but no, great. It was and the whole school team then got whittled down to about myself and maybe another 2 players, and then I was the final one left in the puzzle. So
amazing. Who do you support, by the way?
My team's Bayern.
So, so if you turned up to a Bayern trial, what was that? A Dortmund shirt you'd be wearing?
It's a Dortmund shirt.
The same context, right?
Yeah. It's well, as you know, later on in my career with Rangers and Celtic. But it was a. I can always remember. I mean, it's a great time in my early. My early sort of career, really, so to speak, because that's obviously when I started. But and then they went from there. And I always remember going on when we went on tour. We'd signed Steve Bruce from Gillingham for about 125,000. The team was we had Mickey Shannon as well, the famous Mike Shannon from Southampton. We always made me laugh how times have changed. Whereas like Mick Shannon would be like never warm up, and then the players' lounge would be like about 20 yards away, and we'd say, "Where's Mick?" And it'd be because obviously he's a trainer, isn't he? Horse trainer. And he'd be watching the 5 to 3 at Newmarket before the weekend. So that'd be his warm up, And even the stud box would be an old toolbox. You'd open the toolbox up, and everybody you'd change your own studs for the game. You'd obviously go out and there'd be a bottle of brandy inside. So some of the boys would have a little swig of brandy before they go out. It's
a proper warm up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's overrated these days.
Yeah, so it's oh my word, it just all comes back to you. So, and then it was like the first game we mentioned earlier on. Like so Kenny Dalglish, Bruce Grobler in goal. They were just, I think, Sooners played, Hanson,
Mauro played,
Alan Kennedy. Ray Kennedy was left back that day. I got the call up, and my manager said, "Right, you're starting at 1:45." I went out. My hair was just like, I think it was before gel was actually invented. It was like a big fro. Do you know what I mean? It looked a bit like this microphone actually. And all my mates are in the stand. Are you starting? I'm like, yes, I'm starting. And then, like you said, I think about 24,000 people at Carrow Road.
That's so good.
This
17-year-olds.
is your
debut. We'd gone 2-0 down as well. But as a youngster, you play with no fear. The older you get, you get invited back for Legends games and stuff like that. Regardless if you're playing in front of I remember going back for a Legends game at Rangers and went on as well. Like about the last 20 minutes, just like looking around, thinking, "Oh my God, don't give me the ball," because. But whereas a kid, you don't care. You play with no fear. Yeah, there's no pressure. So then we got a goal back just before half time. Went 3-1 down, came back. I think we went 2-2, went 3-2 behind, and then we got a penalty in the last minute. 89th minute. Mickey Shannon stepped up, and Grobler, I think, got a hand to it, but just went in. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is just incredible." I was on £25 a week.
Wow.
That's what I was on, £25 a week. And my mum and her parents got £25 a week digs money as well. Yeah. So. At that time I was still an apprentice, so that was the first game, and I was thinking, but Steve Bruce scored own goal on his debut, and I was like, hang on a minute, this guy's not going to have a very good career, and look what he went on to do, So after the game, we got about, it was just incredible. I was driving a little Ford Fiesta, it was like 1.1L with white hubcaps and go faster stripes, and I thought I was the absolute bee's knees, you know what I mean? It was brilliant, and sat there and thinking, we got £140 a draw bonus for that game as well. So I was like, every week it was brilliant, because the next game was Coventry away at Highfield Road, and of course opposition, not so much they do the diligence and everything on that tin of playing against then how it is now, but it was Stuart Pearce, so
Psycho,
the Stuart Pearce, and he hit me after 2 minutes, and I literally flew. I was sitting next to some old lady in row Z. Do you know what I mean? It was like, "Hello, you just been on the pitch." And I always loved playing against Stuart, because he was. The way he played, he'd always hit you after 2 minutes, and not that this day and age, it'd be a yellow or it'd be a red straight away, and he'd just lean over and just "Get up, you little," such and such, and that'd be it. And great, you just get up and you get on with it.
Would he have been the toughest player you played against, or?
Yeah, look, the Millwall. There's a picture of me, I think, somewhere with me and Terry Hurlock as well.
We'll find it.
He's hit me from besides at Carrow. He's hit me. I've turned around naturally. It's like if someone hits you that, I've grabbed him by the throat, and then I've gone, "Oh, sorry."
Realised who it was.
Sorry. So Vinnie was a character, Vinnie Jones. Yeah, I mean he. It was hilarious. We played Wimbledon at Player Lane one day, and Ian Crook, who was a bit of an artist as a midfield player, a ball player, and then Vinnie was out there to stop Crook, Ian from playing really, and he just chased him around the pitch. And we were just like looking at him thinking, this is just mad. And he's got an tackle on someone, not Crookie at the time. Anyway, we've all gone round, and we just look, calm down, Vinnie, for goodness sake. Listen, what are you doing?
Was that voice to say to Vinnie
just relax. He went, calm down. It's not football. It's a full-scale war.
He would take you all on.
That's the reason why he done quite well in the films. So they're the sort of players that you'd played. But from a left-back point of view, I always found, like I said, Stuart solid but honest. Then you had players like, I played against Kenny Sampson a few times when he played for Arsenal, always difficult. Tony Dorigo, just because his pace, he was just so quick, you know what I mean, and really good footballer as well. The rest of them, it's just, nip and tuck really. Whoever you're up against, sometimes you can find yourself going from the right wing to the left wing, and,
of course,
different, it depends on what I was, funny enough. The whole situation about when I left Norwich to go to Rangers, and Rangers have watched me 6 times, and we played Forest that game at home. Dave Stringer was the manager at this time, and after about 4 minutes, obviously I'm up against Stuart Pearce. I swapped wings straight away because I knew.
Scared of him?
No, it was the more the point. I didn't want to get injured because I was meeting. I was driving down to London the next day. The manager didn't know. Dave Stringer didn't know. My agent had obviously sorted out a potential deal. They hadn't agreed the fee, so the chairman had to drive down next day. I remember being in the car on the way back after the game, getting a phone call from the agent saying, right, Dale, you need to be down in London tomorrow. It's the Holiday Inn or the Post House on the M4. Andy Townsend had gone the year before to Chelsea. So when on the Sunday, we drove to London, me and the wife, and it was hilarious. We got to the hotel, they hadn't agreed a fee. The agent said, right, you need to lose yourself. Phoned Andy Townsend. He just lived around the corner anyway. So, we're Woking, so we went round, saw Andy and his wife, and sat there by the phone all day, waiting for them to agree a deal. And I said, "What do you think?" He said, "You've got to go, Dale. You've got to go." I spoke to Robert Fleck. Flecky said to me, Dale, because obviously Flecky was from Rangers as well. We'd signed Flecky from Glasgow Rangers for Norwich, and it was just I hadn't agreed the fee, hadn't agreed personal terms. It's just weird. It's just like how things are. And then all of a sudden, once you get the green light,
moves quickly
straight down. Graham had left Rangers to go to Liverpool and took Mark Walters with him. And then Walter Smith, God bless him, it was like then put into the manager's role, and with Archie Knox. And it was like so quick. It was like the chairman at Norwich had just walked straight past me. I'm not even agreeing a deal because I'd signed a 4-year contract. So I was still on due to have 2 years' money as my sign-on fee. So wasn't even at that stage. So my agent just sat down how we are now, just had a cup of coffee, and he just gave me a bit of paper, scrap bit of paper. He said, there you go, that's your personal terms. That's how it was.
Wow.
He said, and I went, and I just, it's great, incredible. I mean, it was, and I said, hang on a minute. I said, I'm not even agreed to join. Walter Smith was in the other lounge because obviously we were still trying to figure out the personal situation, personal terms, and I gave the bit of paper to my wife, and at the time, and I said, what do you think? And because the lady's first thought process was my daughter was only 2 at the time, and she just started crying, and she said, well, you can't turn that down, can you? I was like, oh, well, yeah, but I said, but the club still owes me, I think they owed me about 100 grand, something like that.
That's the 2 years worth of salary?
Yeah, because the whole Norwich thing, I'd signed a contract, they had a 200,000 sign-on fee. This was back in, this is in 80, I'd signed a new deal in 89, 90 season. So I left in 91. So they still owed me money. And I just bought this new house as well, which at the time I was thinking, funny enough, I sold it just in November actually. So, and I had borrowed about another 100 grand on the mortgage and that, and so they owed me 100 grand. So I just took the 100 grand and paid the house off, and then went to Rangers, and that was all. It was great, It was. hunky-dory. So it was an incredible time. But yeah, so many different things come back when you're sitting here talking to you guys,
sure.
you know, it all comes back, you know. So.
Dale, if we go back to the start of that Norwich career, right? 17,
sure.
18, 19, you're breaking into the highest level of football at that age. You start at 8, right? Just a different perspective here for parents listening, for youth football players. Obviously going from 8 to then 17, 18, 19 and being able to break into the highest level of football. A lot of parents want their kids to be able to do that. A lot of kids want to be able to get to that level. But I'm just wondering if we went behind the scenes of what that actually took. Of course, you have performances on the field, but what type of player were you? Would you be putting in extra work before training, after work? What were your routines? Like, are there certain things you did that really got you to that level at 17, 18?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think even if you were still training, I think it was only training maybe once or twice a week at Norwich that time as a kid coming through, you know. So from a personal point of view and the foresight and the attitude, I was so focused that I'd go the extra yard to do stuff on the field by myself in the back garden. Even when I was at Norwich as well, when all the other players would go in, you know, I'd take myself into the gym and you know, work with the ball and stay out and just do like an extra 50 crosses or something like that, you know. So, but again, I was a little bit where a lot of players would have to work like even more on their game. It came sort of quite natural to me. Yeah. They talk about the step over, the Ronaldo step over, which is obviously very, very famous. But back in the day, I just naturally did it. It was like I'd come up to the defender and they knew what was coming, but they couldn't stop it. So I had that in my game as well, especially being as a winger. It was a great weapon to have, inside or outside the fullback. But then it was like, that was natural, but then having to work on your end product. So I'd stay behind and make sure that was polished up in part of my game. My fitness levels were always there. I was always a strong runner, quick, stamina was there, but do a little bit more to find the extra maybe 1 or 2 yards. So explosive pace in speed, you know, speed training. So yeah, and that's what gave me the edge. But also as well mentally, I knew, for example, and I don't say this because I want kids to obviously make sure they get their education and everything else. Yeah. But I always remember before I got called up for the England under-15s team to play against Scotland at Wembley, I was like 14. It was like, and I had like things like growing pains, which all kids go through. We see it in the academies now. You know, I get players come up to me and they I can't play today. I've got a pain in my knee or patella. And it's Osgood Slatters, listen, you've got growing pains. I had that for about as well because maybe I was doing too much as well. I was pushing myself all the time. So I missed the opportunity to play for the under-15s when I was 13. So I was going to play up a year. The following year, I got the opportunity, and it was, you know, but I would, like I said, I just go the extra yard, and it was just incredible. And to say to the educational side of it, work at school, I did what I had to do, but I knew, even the teacher saying to me, yeah, but you need your education, Dad. You need to get your qualifications just in case. You know, I said, no, I'm going to be a footballer. I knew I was going to be a footballer. And that was, whereas other players would have to work a little bit harder, I knew I was going to be a footballer, but I also put that extra graft in on the field as well to make sure that I had that little bit, you know, to keep the edge. So it was that took me all the way through. And I think that's the reason why I was so successful as you know, as getting the opportunity when I was 17. So it was good.
Who was Cameron Newark?
Yeah,
and
Newark,
what role did he play in your
incredible
career?
Yeah, Cameron Newark, middle school, Caister Middle School, who was part of the Norfolk schools. He was on the Norfolk schools committee, but also as well, he was our teacher at Caister Middle School, who gave me the opportunity to play 2 years up. And it's interesting actually because we live obviously over here in the UAE, and when you have players that come to your academy and they have their school games, sometimes they won't turn up for training because it's got school games, etc., etc. And we had the same sort of situation as well back in the day, that school football was priority, and then they didn't like you playing on the Sunday team. It's you know, because they want to make sure that our school team hadn't been beaten for 2 years, and I was playing up 2 years, and they again saw me as a strong player. So playing for my Sunday team, called Caister Wanderers, which was on the field next to the middle school where I used to do the extra training They didn't really like it too much, but Cameron Nook was a huge influence on my career.
Was he your PE teacher?
He was our PE teacher.
At the middle
my
school?
PE teacher, yeah, and he was brilliant. He used to have this cream, like this beige Mac on, and he'd have these Wellington boots on because he was literally spending most of his time on a boggy field. You know what I mean? It was he had sort of quite a unique look to him as well. But he was different class. He was brilliant, and from a school perspective, he was an incredible influence on my really early part of my career.
And for the kids out here, if we relate it to Dubai situation, obviously most of the kids in your academy, DG Pro, are all playing for their school teams. Yeah. What role do you think the PE teacher plays in that? And do you have a relationship between the PE teacher of the schools that you're across, or?
We're understanding of their situation, every student, because we've got, for example, some of our girls go to ASD. So they're at the moment, there's an awful lot of work going and coursework going on at the moment, but also as well from a sporting perspective as well. So they're, for example, they're at school at 6:30 in the morning. Their football training is first, and they've got this, they've got that, and they've missed a big chunk of term 2 for us. But as long as we are aware of that, we don't put pressure on them, because at the end of the day, like we said earlier, that's their bread and butter. It's their school life. That's their sport at school. We encourage them to make sure they enrol and try to get in every team and perform as well. DG Pro is there. It's always going to be there. If they come up from one train set, if they can't make 3, all well be it. We have to understand that. And I think that's a nice relationship we've got between ourselves and not just with the schools, but also the most importantly, your clients, and to have the parental support. Yeah. So we don't put too much pressure on that, which I think is important.
Perfect. That's good. That kind of covers the education on the school side here. Yeah. Obviously, you represented your country at under 21 level as well, and took part in the Toulon tournament.
What are you good on this?
No, all I'm going to say is obviously you've had the opportunity to go on trips.
Yeah.
With your country as well, outside of England, let's say. We touched on it before podcast started, that you've organised trips and tours with DG Pro as well. You've gone to Scotland, you've gone to Norwich, Ipswich, those kind of places. What kind of experiences will those players gain from going on such trips?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, the experience that they'll gain, and again, I've always had that foresight and the outlook to try to give every one of our players an opportunity to go through what I went through as a young player, and not just through football, but to travel into Europe and to travel to a different country and to see different surroundings socially as well. So when we took the obviously when I went on tour with the 21s to Toulon, obviously involved in the B level as well. Didn't quite. I got in the shadow squad when I was at Rangers for the England full team, but didn't quite have that extra push. But when I retired, after having an academy in the UK, when coming here, I always wanted to give the opportunity to the players to travel. So we went to Norwich, and they looked after us. I think it was our under 11s at the time, 11s and 12-year-olds. We took 12 boys back and gave them the opportunity to go back to a club where I spent obviously my early years and some really great seasons, great years. Like you said, we came 4th and 5th in the league and semi-final in the FA Cup, and then to go, this is, and then going round this the stadium as well. I had to do a couple of interviews and a couple of lounges as well, so that they could see sort of still the high regard that I was, because I was a local player as well that did well and then come through the ranks.
Well, you're a Norwich Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly.
Big deal.
Yeah, I know. And Delia as well, bless her. I mean, Delia, who's the major shareholder there, she's on record has said that I'm her favourite player of all time for Norwich. So you can
I didn't know that, but I can believe
that. Yeah. So we get well looked after, that's for sure. Even to the point where last year we went back and it was the Wigan game. I was a guest of honour. So myself and my girlfriend Kim, we were in the directors' lounge. It was a brunch to start off with, not the sort of brunches like over here. So we sit around the table, and it was like there was Delia, there was me, there was Kim, and a few other directors. And there was one space there that's for Isaac Hayden, who had obviously at Newcastle, and he's been struggling with his knee injuries and that. And then there was Lauren Hemp, who just won the Euros, but she was on the other table. So it just shows you that, you know,
it's company.
It's a good company, you know. So, but yeah, so, and it was great. So we had a week there. We played Norwich, we played Ipswich, we played Cambridge. The boys loved it. They got well looked after. We actually put them into a grassroots tournament as well, which was a right eye-opener. It was proper, you know what I mean, recreational pitch. You can imagine.
Was it similar to the pitches that you were playing on?
Yeah. It was incredible, but it was like so cold as well. Do you know what I mean? All the
kids are so lucky out here with
incredible,
great facilities,
incredible
great weather conditions.
And that's another reason why you want to do it, because you were sort of saying to them, look, if you want an opportunity in the UK or in Europe, wherever, this is the sort of environment that these guys are actually trying there also as well, going through to try to get a trial at a pro club. So. And then we went to Glasgow Rangers. Again, the following year, we took 30 players back. It was a great trip. We mentioned earlier on about half-time, going on the pitch, the boys playing on the pitch at half-time, just a little seven-a-side game against each other in front of 50,000 people.
That's an incredible experience.
You know, and they're standing there like just with the shirts on, it's absolutely freezing, do you know what I mean? And like, frozen. In March, and it was like, I think they played Hearts Rangers, they won 3-0, and it was just like, wow, that's the start of it. We played behind, they played on Mini Hampden, just behind the National Stadium. Hamilton Academic on the main pitch, same at Kilmarnock. Rangers training ground with them. An incredible experience. But one of the things that always sort of like you remember from that trip as well, and this is where you see the difference in where we live here and, you know, the cultural side of it, but also as well, they're very affluent over here, aren't they? And travelling back to Scotland, we always sat down together for dinner, and a few of the boys went, "Oh, coach," well, I get them to call me Dale because I'm their mate. I'm not a coach, but I'm a friend of theirs. And then they said, "Dale, we can't. Can we go and get some? Can't eat this. Can we go and just give it 5 minutes, boys? Listen, we're all together. Can we order some room service?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." So. And the restaurant manager comes out. "Is that okay with you, Mr. Dale?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine, no problem. As long as they paid for it by, you know, from the side." She went, "Yeah, they have paid for it." I said, "Oh, yeah, they've all got their own cards, debit cards and credit cards and stuff like that." Do you know what I mean? So they're ordering like beef stroganoff and like filet steaks and this, that, and the other.
Wagyu.
And incredible. So, but the boys have been brilliant, and you know we've still got players that are still with us at DG Pro, but we've got some players that have moved on. And if they move on, they go with our blessing, you know. So
I think those travel trips are super cool that you're doing with DG Pro. Because even for myself, like growing up in Ottawa, Canada, and all the players I played with, you only really get to see the standard in your local city. So it's not until you go and travel that you get to see.
It's an eye opener.
It's true. Yeah,
football, but then also traveling, you get to, you know, have those social experiences with your friends too, which is completely different. It teaches you so many different skills. So I think that's one positive step forward to getting Dubai football on par with European football.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there is such a big difference.
There is. And it's just, you know, we're actually now going to go back to the UK again at the end of March. I think you want to touch on that. But we're it's just great to see the boys, you know, and to have them for such a long period of time. And we said earlier on when we were off air about, you know, we've taken 4 boys back for trials actually at the end of 26th of March to Ipswich Town. Funny enough, the whole rivalry between Ipswich and Norwich, you know, but the programme that Ipswich have put together for the 4 of our under-18s is incredible.
Sounds amazing.
So intense. And even just for the first, and it's not just going back there and training them in their community foundation. This is a proper, you know, full on, and Ipswich have been different class, and that's the links you've had with them over the years. You know that willingness to, you know, my contacts. I could phone anybody up and say, look, I've got this player, I've got that player, and their first day's training is like with their under-18s academy team from 9 till 3, and then they have a 2-hour break, and then they're training with their 16s from 5 till 8:30 at night. That's their first day of training.
That'll be a shock to the system for many.
It will be, and we're fortunate enough. We've always had the group of players I've had ever since they were under 10 I mean, you guys know when we was, obviously we was talking earlier on about the boys and different academies and that. And these 4 boys have been with us all the way through, and they deserve a chance. They deserve an opportunity. Now, we say to them, go there, express yourself, just be confident, but learn. It's a learning process, an experience for them, isn't it? Because, like you said, we touched on a couple of minutes ago, it's great experience for them to have these opportunities. And I think that there's certainly not just ourselves, but there's other academies as well are giving the opportunity to other players, and I'm all for that as well. So it's good.
So what was that like from you coming from Canada to here?
See, the biggest thing, the reason I love that you provide these opportunities for kids is because back then I remember, like, I started playing football pretty late, but once I was 15, 16, I was among like the better players in the city, and we always thought like, oh, we're so good. But it wasn't until I went and took a trip over to Spain and Germany where I saw, whoa, like, hold up, there's a whole another level to football, right? Yeah. So it must be quite the same with all these kids here in Dubai training with their local players. And I know that's another big thing here in Dubai too, with the local players versus the expats. And there's a lot of rules around that too, which makes it difficult. But it's challenging. It's challenging. Like when you go to a new city, you don't know anybody, don't speak the language. And especially when you go there at a higher level of football, it's a lot of pressure. Yeah,
it's a lot of pressure. And one thing that the boys will find as well, when they're, and again, it's their 3rd time going back to the UK, but this time it's a different. They're proper. This is a pro academy. They'll see what it takes for them to. We touched earlier on about myself. Want to do a little bit extra. Do that. You go that extra mile just to give you that extra 10-15%. And they'll see this with the players. They'll see players going off into the gym, have their own programs as well. What they have to work on, also as well, what they have to eat. Every player will have their own dietary as well. So it will be an eye-opener, and all of a sudden I just hope our players don't go back there and say, can I have a sirloin steak, please? You know what I mean? So you'll get the personal chefs looking at them thinking at the football club thinking, what are you talking about? So, no, it's brilliant. It's great for them, and they're super excited. The parents are super excited. We are as well as a club that we can offer our players this as well. And, long may it last for them as well. It's not just about them; it's about the next generation coming through as well. Right. So, it's all part and parcel of growing up, isn't it? As well, So it's great. It's good.
When is that next trip you guys are taking?
So we're off on the 26th of March.
Nice.
So, and then we come back on the 2nd of April. But the nice thing about the boys as well, we'll us going to Ipswich. We'll just get a train down to Stratford, and we get off there, and it's the London Stadium there, and that's where West Ham obviously play. So we'll on the Saturday before they come back on the Sunday, they'll go and watch West Ham versus Southampton as well in the Premier League, and it's in the Olympic Stadium, or the old Olympic Stadium. So that's another experience. They've seen the Norwich Stadium, they've been to a game, they've obviously done the Glasgow Rangers. All the hospitality is second to none, and now it's like getting on it's like another experience, isn't it? It's like hang on, we're now going to go get a train to go from Ipswich to, it's only 45 minutes, isn't it? Something like that, and then walk into a ground, this huge stadium, and to watch a full Premier League game against 2 teams that have been struggling a little bit this season.
I was going to say everything's to play for in that fixture,
absolutely.
So a lot's on the line.
Yeah, West Ham has sort of picked up slowly recently, but Southampton I don't think they'll probably be under a different manager by that time as well.
Potentially.
He's under a bit of pressure. So, but again, from our point of view, another great experience, and that's what it's all about. So,
yeah, if you allow me, I'm just going to break it up a little bit. I found some unbelievable things online, by the way, and I want to get everyone's reaction. Well, I think it's unbelievable. So what I'll do is I'm going to fire some quick fire questions your way. Give me a snippet of reaction, and I want everyone to take on it as well.
Okay.
So first one, is this correct? First of all, you played in 5 Old Firm derbies, so Celtic versus Rangers, and you never lost.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. First game was 1-0 at home. Trevor Stevens scored. No, sorry. First game was on New Year's Day, 3-1 away at Celtic Park. Who scored? Coist, Haitley. I think Coist got 2. No, John Brown, 3-1. Incredible. Second game was we won 1-0 at home. I think Trevor Stevens scored. Third one was at Hampden. McCoy scored. We went 10 men down. We went to down 10 men, but David Robinson got sent off. Won 1-0. Second one, another one at Celtic Park. I think we beat them 2-0 or 2-1. And then there was another one at Rangers as well. We'd beat them as well. I think. That's
Can anyone else say the same thing? By the way,
having played
more than
5 consecutive wins.
Yeah. I'd never lost against Celtic. I played in 5 and won it all. Every one. I think I played about 55 games for Rangers and lost 1 game.
That's insane. Right,
really?
Bringing it back again.
Go on.
Rewinding.
Yeah.
You cleaned double European Cup winner Martin O'Neill's boots.
That's correct.
And you wore a pair of his boots versus Wales while playing for England under-18s. How does that happen?
At Doncaster, yeah, it was.
How?
Yeah. I was his boot boy.
Right.
So, and he wore a pair of boots called Pony. Do you remember back in the day? Just a little V stripe.
Okay.
And he I think at the away game he didn't take. And I thought I'll just take his boots. I'll just wear his boots. And so on. I used Tipex the stripes to make sure they stuck out as well, stood out, and so I nicked his boots for that game.
We touched on it before, like those kind of values and things with young players today aren't found as much. But I did see something. What's his name in PSV? Xavi Simons. Yeah. He was made to clean all the boots of all his teammates after.
Even while he was training with the first team, right?
Really?
While he's training with the first team, I think he lost
good.
something in training.
Okay.
Like a game, and he had to clean all his teammates' boots. There's actually footage of him cleaning, and they're all making fun of him. But
Brilliant.
So who would be up there as like, I'd want to clean their boots? I know it's a weird thing.
Ronaldo's my pick. 100%.
It would be the one, I wish I could
Send me to Saudi right now. I'm cleaning his boots. Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if it is in shot, by the way, but we've got a signed Cristiano Ronaldo shirt behind us. It was his first season at Real Madrid, number 9, so there's not many of those. But Ronaldo over my right shoulder, Messi over my left, and a few other bits as well. Conor McGregor and all that stuff. But
brilliant.
Another thing also I wanted to touch on, Disco Dale Gordon. That's your nickname, I think, from your time at Norwich. Is that right?
It was. It's one of a few, actually.
Like, quickly, how did that come about?
I had Flash Gordon as well.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Dear me. Disco Dale, just quickly, was on tour.
Okay.
It was not the first year I broke on. It was probably about a couple of years afterwards. And we always used to go to Sweden. So after every game, not like it is now, but they'd always put a little reception on. But the reception could be like in a bar with a bit of music on and stuff like that. And I was the one who used to do the dancing and used to have all the soul glow in my hair. And me and a guy called Louis Donowa, who was another player for Norwich, another winger. So we would then get up and just do a little bit of a dance.
in Sweden, you said?
This is in Sweden, yeah.
So it was all ABBA, was it?
Yeah, it was full on that. Peroxide blonde, my hair. Like that. But it was, so, and also as well, the step over was always a good one as well to throw in on the shape as well. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, Ben and I, obviously, half of us right now had a very uneventful playing career. Obviously, it stopped when we were at school here, growing up here. But we never were afforded any nicknames, so I'm going to give the opportunity, if you could keep it PG or maybe it can be bleeped out in post-edit. On first impressions, what would you give us in terms of nicknames?
Chuckle Brothers.
All right.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's quick, yeah.
That's better than Cheeky Girls, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, let's go Chuckle Brothers.
Well, I'll take that. Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Brilliant.
And then one more thing, it's a more serious note. Well, it could be. Do you think you would have received a full England cap had you stayed in England and not gone to Rangers at that time?
Oh, good question. I would probably say yes, because I was playing the best football in my career. I was only 22, 23 at the time. But I was. I would say yes. There was another club involved as well in the transfer, which was Tottenham. They came in late for the late bid, but I'd already made my mind up. But, and I think there's like there is now. I think with England and Scotland, the Premier League and Scottish, I think players don't tend to go from England as much.
Yeah, true.
Into Scotland. Maybe Championship, Division 1, and a little bit lower. Yes, it's a better standard of football, but I think I would have been given an opportunity.
Despite your amazing time at Rangers, is that a regret from your side, slightly?
No, I don't have any regrets. The only regret I probably did have in my career was leaving Rangers when I did.
Okay.
I was left out of the cup final squad. I just come back from, funny enough, talk about the injuries earlier on, medial ligament injury, and I came back and I was fit, but hadn't had enough playing time. So Walter left me out of the squad. And I didn't even go to the game. I just got in the car and drove back to Norfolk. And then in the summer, that was when West Ham had then got promoted in the Premier League.
And you scored West Ham's first goal of the Premier League era.
Yeah. I mean, Walter said to me, look, whatever happened before the cup final and everything else, and I was disappointed. He said, but I was back in the training and everything pre-season. We've had an offer from West Ham. Go and talk to them, but I expect to see you at Heathrow because we were then going to Italy for pre-season training, and we'll meet at the airport. Went down there, spoke to Billy Bonds. Harry was his assistant, and Peter Storey, the chief exec. I don't know, it's peanuts now, but it's about £1 million, 750 grand, £1 million. And funny enough, they offered me more money for West Ham than when I was on the Rangers.
Okay.
But that wasn't really the reason why I left. The reason why I left was because it became like Epping. When I was at Norwich, we'd always stop at Epping, which is only like 2 hours to Norwich. So it became more geographically. I was like, I could see the family more. I mean, at that time, not all the time, my wife would be in Glasgow or in Scotland, my kids and everything. So, so it became more of like, it was more close to home, for the wrong reasons, and that's the only regret I had because I still had 2 years left of a 4-year contract at Rangers, and I loved it at Rangers. So that was the only regret I have had in my career, really.
Yeah, you're full of records like that, things that will never be beaten. I mean, like Harry Kane recently beat Jimmy Greaves' goal record for Tottenham, but you've got records which cannot be beaten, like West Ham's scored West Ham's first ever goal. I also saw.
Did you see it? It's a 30-yarder.
We'll need to put. Well, maybe in the post edit we can put that on there. Post edit, we'll bring there's another one for Norwich.
Backside from 2 yards.
For Norwich, you scored their very first goal from a televised game
against West Ham.
Oh, was
against
it
West Ham? Yeah. Right. So first televised game for Norwich. I think it was on Boxing Day or something like that. I think it was like that Christmas, over the Christmas period. Literally, the ball got knocked down the line, and Alan Knight came out, the goalkeeper, and he should have cleared. He should have been out. Stuart Pearce tackled Rose Ed again. I probably sat next to the same lady I did all the years ago.
She never left.
And I just went past, and the angle was just literally so like it was impossible. And I scored, and it was like, wow, this is, but then it's like brilliant. But now you look back at it and think, you actually got first goal.
And that can never be taken away from you.
No, it can't be. No, it can't.
As a winger, what kind of winger were you? Were you boots to the touchline or cut inside, like deliver across or cut to score?
Yeah, back in it was more of like, also as well, it was like going past a defender. You know what I mean? You
take them
until
on.
Just getting that, like the Beckham, you get that little, little yard and you whip it in. But also as well, they tend to go in to come out now, don't they? Go back the other side because they haven't got. No one's got apart from Haaland, a full number 9. But so I was outside, inside. The step over would obviously. I was just a outstanding player.
I know. As a right back,
I was going to say, so Hell plays as fullback.
As a right back, how do you defend against that kind of winger? Someone who's
just got to take him to the outside. I mean, that's the main thing to do.
Yeah.
Have you got enough in you to put him into Rosette?
Dale does a little step over.
Flown past you.
I was that confident with that. I used to do the step over. The defender would be gone, and I'd come back, and then
was that your signature move? Just the step overs.
Yeah, but I was born with it. So when I was born, I went left, and then my mum went right.
You didn't step overs in the womb, mate. Is there anyone in today's game who you see bits of yourself in today?
Oh, wow. In today's game?
Yeah. Is there a winger who is the next Dale Gordon? Touted as the next Dale Gordon.
Touted as the next Dale Gordon. The youth have coming through now, who you'd see. That's a difficult question, really, because the game has just changed so much. You know, I mean, my game was, like I said, was power and pace, and sometimes mixing up a little bit. You don't see that now. You don't see him as an out and out winger.
Sure.
I look at Anthony at Man United, and he is sort of dances on the ball and does all these tricks, but doesn't go anywhere with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Whereas I do the same thing, but I'd like.
There's a purpose to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, you'd know about it, So, but I don't know really. It's It's a tough question, that one.
Tough one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
All right, we'll come back to that. I want to, we're closing off soon, but I want to do a game of, it's almost like Bruce's play your cards right, higher and lower, but it's Ben's play your cards right.
Okay.
So we're going to go with your teams and league appearances. So I pulled some stats up from Wikipedia, had them verified by soccerbase.com.
Okay.
So this is what they say.
Okay.
I want you to say, okay, we'll start off with Norwich. You played 206 league games. Let's go with Rangers. Did you play more or less appearances?
Higher or lower?
Higher or lower?
Oh, lower.
Lower. Okay. Yeah, you played 45 times for Rangers. Yeah. Okay. You went on loan to Peterborough.
I did.
Yeah.
After a knee injury. Typical.
Okay.
My knees shot
When
to
is your
bits.
knee not injured?
I know.
Was that lower or higher than Rangers' 45 appearances?
Lower.
Lower?
Yeah.
Any idea how many appearances you made?
Probably 6.
Spot on. 6.
Was it really?
Yeah. Your memory's frightening. Yeah.
Wow.
Then you went on loan to
Millwall.
And was that higher or lower than 6? What happens in player cards, right, when it's the same? It's 6 again. I think
6.
you can change the card.
Yeah,
right.
Funny
So
enough,
it's actually 6.
Yeah, and that was knee injury as well again.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think you were a player coach at Bournemouth, weren't you?
I was. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that higher or lower in terms of appearances than 6 at Millwall?
At Bournemouth, you mean?
Bournemouth, yeah.
That was higher.
Higher.
Yeah.
Any idea? How many?
Oh, I don't know.
Just a guess.
Has the guess? I don't know. 20?
16. Very
16,
close.
Yeah.
There's one team I've left out. West Ham.
Yeah.
Was that higher or lower?
Lower.
Any idea how many?
4?
It's actually 9.
9.
9.
Yeah, my knee went completely at West Ham. That was
That was the point.
horrible. Yeah.
So that's 9. And last one.
Yep.
If you had to rate the So Close So Far podcast out of 10, is it higher or lower than a 9?
Absolutely higher.
Oh, there you have it, everyone. Okay.
Fantastic.
That has to be a 10 out of 10. I appreciate that.
What a way to end off the podcast. Dale, thank you so much for joining
You're
in.
most welcome.
Appreciate
Really
you coming
enjoyed it,
down.
guys.
Really enjoyed it.
It's a pleasure.
Guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you drop a like on this video. You can check it out on Spotify, Apple, or watch it on YouTube. Ben, Josh,
Thank you very much.
enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
And thank you to the YFL. Shout out to them.
Absolutely.
See you next time.